Okay, so it is February 15th at 9:31 a.m. The women's short program is over. We could see from it's not coming on NBC until tonight. We can see from the I'm over here eating beef jerky because I'm running out of snacks. It's so cold. Yesterday was another day where it snowed and it was freezing, and we've become used to over the years taking those rare days and just staying home. Now, especially me, I don't drive and I don't have money for the bus. So I've been walking everywhere, and just because of that, I keep getting these days where I can't walk anywhere. I ran out of sugar, real sugar. I'm using powdered sugar in my tea, and I'm running low on snacks, so I had to search for some beef jerky. But we could see from the standings that spoilers. If you, that's what I'm saying. It's not coming on until tonight. If you haven't watched it, if you haven't been seeing the result on Twitter, Kamila Valieva is in first after the short program. She is the one at the center of the controversy. She is from Russia, but they're called the Russian Olympic Committee at these games and the last few previous ones because Russia, the country, is technically banned, but they wanted to give their athletes a way to participate, to not punish the individual athletes for what they thought was a system in Russia that allowed cheating, doping. In second place is Anna Sherbakova. Oh, Valieva has her overall score is 82.16. Anna Sherbakova in second place, also from the Russian Olympic Committee, is 80.20. And Kaori Sakamoto from Japan is at 79.84. So that's your top three. But in fourth place is Alexandra Trusova, who is from the also from the Russian Olympic Committee, at 74.60. So the highest American is Alyssa Liu in eighth place with 69.50. So the thing is, why aren't you receiving enough video? I didn't do anything. Anyway, this competition is ruined in a way, and you have a situation where there's supposed to be very specific rules. And I said when they did this and when they allowed her to skate, Kamila Lieva, I forgot how to say her last name. It didn't want to come out. Yeah. That I never saw anything like this in a sport. Because all sports seem to hate any kind of performing enhancing drug, and people get banned and all kinds of stuff happens. And when they made the decision to let her skate, I was like, this is wrong. And everybody who's watched figure skating, at least in this country, and I understand that we are the United States, and there's supposed to be a United States versus Russia thing, there never wasn't figure skating though. Figure skating fans, as long as I've been paying attention for the last 20 years, like everybody just the same. And they like who they like. And the real figure skating fans, yes, some people root for America. Those are people who just watch the Olympics and they root for the country. They, you know what I mean? But as far as figure skating fans go, they like all kinds of people from all kinds of countries. So when everybody uniformly, all of us said she shouldn't compete, and the former athlete says she shouldn't compete, but that's not what happened. It's confusing. I understand why they did it, and this is the same corruption I talk about all the time. And the kind of corruption this is we don't want to get sued, or we got to go by the rules. And it's cowardly to not be able to take a stand and not be able to have integrity and not be able to tell the truth and not be able to do the right thing because this is what the rules say, and this is, or you don't want to get sued, or you know what I mean. their rules somehow made it so that this 15-year-old girl could compete when I guess the age limit is 16, right? So you can compete if you're younger, but you're a protected person, meaning somehow you're not responsible for yourself, I guess. I don't know. And that's why they figure it's not her fault. She can't be penalized for something because she's underage. So you can't penalize an underage person. And that's why they're allowing her to skate. And they're thinking about her mental health and all this stuff. She's still going through this scandal. Her name's been dragged through the mud, maybe justifiably, all over the world, because the whole world is watching. It'd be one thing if she didn't come up with a fakakta story, but the fakakta story, somehow she shared water with her grandpa, like she drank out of her grandpa's cup, and he's on heart medicine, and therefore somehow she got contaminated with his heart medicine by drinking out of the same cup. I mean, look. I've already said I don't understand why it's that important for anybody to win gold medals that they need to cheat. And in that way, I'm talking about the system, I'm talking about the country, I'm talking about the federation. These Olympic federations are crazy, and they need to be looked into. Why is it saying no data? This is working, isn't it? Encoding overload. I don't know what that means. Anyways, so I've been watching figure skating for years. You watch somebody skate. You like them or you dislike them. You're a super fan or you're a casual fan. And as long as I've been watching skating, people watch a performance, and then the person sitting in the kiss and cry with their coaches, and they're waiting for their scores, and the scores come up, and the people at home and sometimes the people in the arena are like, huh? What? Huh? What? So because figure skating's always been like that, there's always been controversy. And it's very hard for you to say what's right and what's wrong. Now, we know the controversy in Salt Lake. We know they changed the scoring system. If you watch an old video, let's say, like I said, I've been watching Philippe Candeloro, but if you watch an old video, you used to see scores. The scores were like 5.6, 5.3, 5.9. There was a technical score. And what did they call the other one? Now they call it components. What did they call it back then? Artistic score. Right, so say you got a 5.3 on the technical score, right? But you're really cool as a art, style. Your style, your performance is really cool. Then you should get a much higher, like 5.7, 5.8 style score. Which is funny because I was watching Philippe and he got low artistic scores, and I'm like, what? You know what I mean? So there's always that kind of judging bullshit that's been going on since time began. They changed the system to make it more fair, but you can't. So now, if you don't understand the judging, what they do is they have their technical score. Meaning, did the person do the jump or not do the jump? Did they do the spin or did they not do the spin? And then you get a base value for that, right? That is by the technical call. That's the person who says, did they do it or not? They're the ones who are really looking to see if they completed it by the rules. Okay, so that person says yes or no. So then you get your base value from that. After you get that base value, say whatever the thing is, say the best base value for whatever you just did is an 8. Okay, now the judges give you a grade of execution. That grade of execution is how well or how poorly you did it. So say two people both do a triple axel. One person does it perfect. Perfect. Their grade of execution score should be, +3, +4, way up there, right? And plus something. But I think it only goes to 5. Say somebody else does it and they're wobbly and they kind of turned it out, but they technically did it. Then their grade of execution score will be like a negative number, like a -1, -2, -3. Okay. So all the judges from the countries, like they've always had, they all get to give those how well did they do it scores. That's what the judges do. And then there's a whole nother set of scores, which they call the component scores. And that has to do with how the person, their skating skills, the way they skated to the music, stuff like that. You know what I mean? It has to do with costume and everything else. And you can look at the protocols if you want. I haven't looked at them in a long time, so I shouldn't be talking about it because I looked years and years. But, so there's like 2 scores that get added all together. And now people get, instead of getting, an average like 5.7 from like they would have in the old days, now you get this score that's in the hundreds. You know what I mean? Which makes it so that one person could win by 1/100 of a point in figure skating, which is a judged sport, as if somebody was winning by 1/100 of a second in time sport like skiing or cycling or something like that. But it's not that exact because you're judging. People are making that decision. So making it the way they've had has made it even. It's easier for the wrong person to win. It's easier to cheat because, to me, it's easier to cheat, or it's easier to hide cheating because all you have to do is say you're going to give, have an attitude about what you're going to give a certain person, or you don't like a country or whatever. You just always give them a negative GOE, or less than you would, less than you should. So say the person landed that triple axel great, and you should give them, you're a judge, and you should give them a +3. But for whatever reason, you don't want to. So you give them a +2 instead. And then in the next element that they did it a little bit iffy, you say, all right, well, I'm going to give it a +1. Or you should give it a +1. You say, well, I'm going to give them a -1 because I want to ding this person a point all along the way. People can do that. The whole system doesn't make it more fair. So you see people and you watch. I was watching Nathan Chen. I don't like the way he skates and stuff like that, but you see somebody score, and this happens with the men all the time. You see a score and it's so much more than the other people, and you're like, it doesn't, the degree to which they were, what do I want to call it, they were anointed beforehand. You know what I mean? The judges go in there with the same bias, the same person they already want to win, based on the year they've had, based on their whole career. I'm spitting little pieces of. They can still decide who they want to win before they even show up. And they can say, oh, that person fell, but it wasn't as bad as when that other person fell. They both fall, it should kind of be equal, right? That's not what happens. So, like, I thought Nathan Chen's scores were too much the other night. Should he have still won? Possibly, yeah. But, if we're looking at the scores, you got to say, wait a minute, now, right now, you have the Russian women getting high scores. And were they better than the other ones? People made mistakes. So, for all this doping and all this other stuff, what about the scoring is questionable all the time? That's what's wrong with figure skating. And that's what, the more they try to fix it for show, like I said, after the worse it got. Because when Patrick Chan was skating, I was not a fan of Patrick Chan's. But everybody in the skating community decided that he was the second coming. And when I used to watch it and I used to talk about figure skating at that time, and I was paying very close attention, the other people that I talked with about figure skating at the time used to call it Chanflation. He would get a ridiculous score compared to everybody else. Like, way more. So the idea is it was inflation for him. That his scores were inflated. That's what I'm saying. It could go both ways. Somebody's score could be inflated because the people have already decided they're going to win. Or that's who they want to win for whatever reason. Or somebody could be, they could, like Boy Yangjin. I looked at his scores and I was like, what's wrong with his score? What's wrong with his score? I went and looked at his GOEs. They weren't very good. And I'm like, wait a minute. He shouldn't have such negative GOEs based on the performance I just saw. But if he has a reputation of not being an artist, they come in with that and that's what they put down. So even though there's these base values and all this stuff, there's all this other points just sitting there waiting to be manipulated, waiting to be decided by people, like I said, who have biases. I'm not even talking about bribery. I'm just talking about people deciding ahead of time what they're going to do. Or just deciding they like this person better than that person. So two people doing two completely the same jumps, they like this person better, they're going to give them a point higher. You know? So, with this girl in this situation now, I am so sick of hearing that she's only 15, she's only 15, she's a child. I'm so sick of that. I'm so fucking tired of it. I mean, right away, I was really happy that they did this. Right away, Johnny and Tara were like, hey, you know what? We were getting tested since we were little. Johnny said 13, Tara said 11. And it's like, there's been a whole propaganda push because of trying to get certain people in trouble for dating underage women. And all. There's just been a real thing of trying to turn young ladies who are teenagers into infants, as if they have no control of their minds, they don't know what they're doing, they can't control themselves. And I'm not saying it's the same here, but imagine yourself at 15 years old. I assume you're older. I remember what I was like at 15. I was no dumber then than I am now, okay? I was probably smarter. Any person at any time who's going to cut corners because somebody's telling them, hey, you know what? If you do this, you'll win. If you take this, it'll help you skate better. If you do this, you know what I mean? Now, say somebody's being given it. I mean, there were athletes who said that they thought they were getting a B12 shot and they got steroids or something. That kind of shit can happen. And it's unfair. But somebody's to blame, and whether it's your technical fault or not, you can't compete with people who didn't have that advantage that you were given, whether you decided to do it or not. So, let's see, the results page, I gotta close it, because maybe that's what's messing up this stream, if it's getting messed up, because it keeps updating. Don't ask me why. This is over. Alright, so who didn't make it? Looks like the Chinese skater didn't make the final thing. That stinks. And the Ukrainian girl, she was the one that skated to the Christmas time stuff, right? I don't know why they have to do that. I don't understand why they can't compete in both things. It's so stupid. Like I said, okay, it's longer. So put another half an hour on the competition. Who cares? It's all controlling. It's people we've seen for 2 years now, and it's going on in the world. It's going on in every single thing you want. You pick up a phone, you call an office, you call a local government agency, anything. The people in charge, anybody who's a leader, anybody who's a decision maker, shouldn't be. We've had bad leaders this whole time. That the IOC, somehow there's been, when you're on Twitter arguing with people, especially when they bring up Sha'Carri Richardson and how she wasn't allowed to compete in the Olympics, but this girl is. People can't understand the very basic thing that it's the Olympics, okay? And, okay, the U.S. did this and blah, 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 and it was the USA that banned Sha'Carri or whatever. And we know that, and it's different committees, and there's all this other thing. That's the point, though. In the end, if some countries are taking a heavy hand and they're saying no doping, or, you can't smoke pot, to deal with the issue because you feel bad. But this other person could take performance-enhancing drugs, and they could be in Olympics. You have to understand, the Olympic Committee, they're in charge. The Olympics is their thing, okay? Suppose you had Thanksgiving dinner, and you invited all your family, right? And your cousin knows you hate somebody you used to work with, and your cousin decide they want to bring that person that you hate that you used to work with to your Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, so this is a decision your cousin's making. This is somebody you said you can come. Now they're making the decision to bring this person you hate to your Thanksgiving dinner. It's your house. It's your turkey. Do you have to let that person in? No, because it's your house. The IOC, I don't see what kind of freaking... The cops are not going to come and arrest the head of the, Olympic committees if they don't let... They decide to say, okay, well, this is what the Russians did, or this is what the Russian Olympic Committee did. They revoked their ban or whatever, so we got to live by it. You don't have to live by it. It's your house. The Olympics is your house. You don't have to let anybody in you don't want to. But they're deferring and saying, well, and this is what we have. We had cowards. We have people who don't know what to do in a crisis. That's what's going on in this world. Those are leaders in everything right now, and that's why the world is a fucking mess, and it's a nightmare. Nothing's fair. Everybody's sad and disappointed all the time. Everybody's walking around not knowing what the hell's going on, because those who lead shouldn't be leaders. They have no... What I believe has happened over the years and why I'm a piece of crap person who has nothing is because strong-willed people like myself, people who tell the truth like myself, we are cast aside because the world doesn't really want that, or the people who are already there don't want that. Everybody in a decision-making position, everybody in a position of power, everybody who runs a government, everybody who is a mayor or whatever, they are, or people in administration, in an office, whatever, it's yes people. Everybody is yes people. They do what they're supposed to do. They say what they're supposed to say. They wear what they're supposed to wear. You know what I mean? They make the boss happy, even if the boss is wrong. You know what I mean? They go along to get along. And everybody who has right now, or is in, like I said, a position like this, all they know how to do is agree with everybody else. All they know how to do is do what everybody else is doing. All they know how to do is not get sued. You know, to me, that's what this is kind of about, because I guess somehow their rules say that she's supposed to, in this situation, this girl is not responsible for what she's doing because she's not 16. So therefore, they have to let her compete because she's a protected person. Like, this is what I'm saying. These are all fucking rules on a piece of paper. Why would anybody be worried about the rules, breaking the rules that don't make sense, and saying, you know what, she can't compete because she took a PED, unless they're worried about getting sued? How could you possibly be more worried about somebody coming after you if you said that she can't compete, instead of the nightmare scenario that you have right now where a whole bunch of people think this looks, like I said, like racism, because Sha'Carri Richardson is a very obvious athlete in the United States who was not allowed to compete in the Olympics because somebody banned her. And now this girl very obviously is taking a drug she shouldn't be taking because it's for old people. It's a heart medication. She doesn't have a heart problem. She's a 15-year-old. It's being used to increase stamina, which enhances her performance, and she's allowed to compete. How can anybody in decision-making positions saying, okay, it's going to look worse, or it's going to be worse somehow to tell her, no, you can't compete, than it will be to have her compete and have this horrible PR go out, have the Olympics look corrupt, have everything be a nightmare, have all the other skaters feel like this is unfair. And the worst fucking part of it is this is why when I say people don't know how to lead, this takes the cake. They are saying that if Valieva makes the podium, which she's in first place right now, if she makes the podium, they're not going to give her a medal. So, they're not going to do the medal ceremony. So if she comes in third, she comes in second, she comes in first, whoever those other two athletes are who should have their moment, who should at least see their flag and wear the medal and be proud, they don't get to do that because of what? This makes no sense, because they're allowing her to compete. If they're allowing her to compete, then they should give her the fucking medal because she's there. Then if you're not going to give her the medal, why are you allowing her to compete? Because this is what, let's say they were iffy on her and they thought, well, maybe, and they're waiting for another test to make a final decision. Then you could say, okay, well, we'll let her compete, but we have to see if she's, you know, really clean now. Which doesn't even make sense, but follow me. So if they're still suspicious of her, and they're just wanting to know if on the day she had anything in her system, you find that out with the testing afterwards. Now, we've all watched the Olympics. We've all seen things like this. So many athletes have won gold medals or some kind of medal, and then the testing that's done way later comes back positive and they're stripped of their medal. So since they've allowed her to skate, since she just skated this morning and she's going to skate, I guess, tomorrow night, why don't you give her the medal, have the medal ceremony, and let's say she gets the gold. Just say she gets the gold. Say the Japanese girl gets the silver and another Russian gets, the Russian Olympic Committee person gets the bronze. Okay? You have the ceremony. She gets her gold medal. The other two get their medals. Fine, whatever. Then they decide later on, okay, we did another test. Now she got the heart medicine in her again. You take it away. But if it's not dependent, if what you're doing is not dependent on another test, then you should be giving her the medal. Because like I said, this is your house. This is your Thanksgiving dinner. You invited her. Or you allowed her to be, somebody else invited her behind your back, but you let her compete. So if you're going to let her compete, you got to give her the medal. You got to let her win. You can't, what they're doing is like, okay, we don't like her, but there's nothing we can do about it. Again, it's your house. Of course you can say no, she can't. If you can't say, I mean, we have United States Olympic Committee, USOC. IOC is International Olympic Committee. That means they're above the United States Olympic Committee. What the United States Olympic Committee is below, because they're part of one country. International means the whole world. That means they should be able to, they should be the final say on anything. So if the United States wants to ban somebody and they ban them, and the Olympic Committee wants to say, well, we're going by their ban, fine. And they say, well, we're not going to let people in that the country banned, that's one thing. But if it's your I almost said tournament, if it's your event and you have your own rules, and some country comes in with shitty rules that break your rules, you still should uphold your rules. You know what I mean? It's one thing if the country is stricter than you. It's another thing if the country's too lenient. And that's the situation here. So if your thing is people got to be clean, the girls, you know, what they're trying to say is that, I think the point is that this test is from December. And then there's a question of other people and other athletes, even Russian athletes, who were tested a bunch more times than she's been tested. So there's the idea that her tests were hidden, or she wasn't tested as much, or somehow, which would be further cover up with all this nefarious business going on around this girl. I feel like everybody in the free world thinks that, yeah, they should have just said, no, you can't come. And it will be hard for her and it will be sad for her. This isn't hard for her. This isn't sad for her. You think it's not going to be worse on her for the rest of her life? That she's going to be the one who cheated instead of the one who didn't win? Instead of the one... Because at least if she was kicked off the Olympics and she could play the victim for the rest of her life and say, I was treated unfairly. They did that to me. Boo-hoo-hoo. Now for the rest of her life, she's going to be... If she wins a gold medal or any medal that they don't want to give her, but if she comes in first place, she's going to be the one that ruined the Olympics for everybody else. She's going to be the one who cheated. The one who, you know, just ruined figure skating. That's not worse than just not letting her compete. these leaders, this is what I'm saying. This is, everybody is like watching this like, everybody is like not into it anymore. Figure skating's already been controversial. All of us who've watched it, we've all had favorites whom we know were underscored in favor of somebody who was favored for reasons that have nothing to do with what's out there on the ice. We've all seen it. When I was watching the Vancouver games, I was on Twitter. I've been on Twitter that long. I was on Twitter like this because Johnny Weir was underscored. Why was he underscored? Because he wasn't the favorite son. The favorite son was Evan Lysacek. Why was Evan Lysacek the favorite son? Because he was willing to play the not flamboyant game or whatever. He was a stooge. He was a company stooge for United States figure skating. He acted the way they wanted him to. He did whatever they said. He skated ugly as hell. Go watch that program, Firebird or whatever the hell it was. It looked like shit. Johnny skated the best of his life and he didn't get the scores, and we all booed. I booed in the house. They booed in Vancouver. The whole world booed. And it's because Johnny was too flamboyant. You think we could get away with too flamboyant in 2022, 12 years on? That was in the new system. That was in the new scores. It was done. He was underscored. Like I said, and then you had all those years of translation after that. So all of us who watch figure skating, we watch it with a grain of salt. We watch it knowing, yeah, they've kind of already decided who's going to win. I'll root for, I knew that with Nathan Chen. Okay? So, like I said, you could look at Yuzuru Hanyu, Shoma Uno, Jason Brown. Look at their component scores. Look at their basically style scores. They're all beautiful skaters. Even if you love Nathan Chen, he's not a beautiful skater like them, and he got a better score. His component scores, the style scores, were better than theirs. So it's always been like that for those of us who watch. We pay attention. We understand the fix has always been in to some degree. But this, it's not even leadership. I don't know what this is. This deferment of, well, we can't do anything because Russia. When they've already banned Russia. It's cowardly. So if you made the move to let her be in it, give her the damn medal. If there's some evidence you're waiting for later on and you feel like she doesn't really deserve it, then take the medal away later down the line, like you've done in the past a million times. But if you feel like you're boxed in and you have to let her skate and she is the best in the world maybe, or whatever the hell, nobody understands the reasoning, I don't think. I know this is sticky and I don't know why, but I think it's because I'm moving too much. I can't help it. You know what I mean? I'm not Italian. I don't want to. Well, I wanted to be Italian when I was growing up, but I don't think Italians act like this. But I'm being a stereotypical Italian from the movies. I'm talking with my hands all the time. But leaders who can't lead in every faction of this world right now, and that's why the world's going to hell. If they let her skate, they should have the fucking ceremony. Give her the medal. And if there's something you want to find out later on, you need more evidence, you want to go after her, but to be like, well, we don't like her, we're not going to give her a medal, but we can't. Well, we had to let her compete because Russia, they're ruining their own Olympics for people because they know that figure skating is the marquee event. They know that's why most people tune in to watch figure skating, and they've let it go to hell. And they're using some kind of, well, for the girl's sake. No. There's so much going on here that instead of just admitting that people have biases and in a judge sport there's going to be problems and stuff like that, and that you can never get figure skating to be as accurate as, like I said, a time trial. All this bullshit illusion since Salt Lake that you could somehow through scoring and thing make it fairer. It was always going to be a biased sport and a judged sport. But we all understood that and we all watched it for years and we're fine with it. but trying to fix it and fix it and fix it has come to this. And like I said, why anybody needs performance enhancing anything? Why the Russian machine there that is churning out these girls, why they feel and why they don't want to compete fairly, why they feel like their girls are so shitty that they need these drugs or whatever, these enhancements, why they need to do that to these children, why they don't think that they can just win on their own through skills. I don't even know. Why do you need that? Why do you need it in the first place? Why can't you just let the girls win and maybe come in second, maybe third? You know what I mean? It's not gonna do anything for your country. Like I said, this was just a sport for everybody to come together and push themselves. It's not about, I mean, the idea of this country is better than that country because of the number of gold medals. I don't think anybody's thought that in a long, 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 long time. That's why I don't understand the motivation of churning out these girls like this. Yeah, I assume that some academy or whatever it's called, if they have X amount of gold medalists, they'll be able to charge more of a fee for their services. But is that what this is coming down to? I know I complain about money and I say I have none. This is why I'm a loser in this world and why I think it's me who's the problem, because everybody else gets it and everybody else is sailing along fine. But is it really that? Is this whole world going through this shit with this figure skater and ruining the Olympics because, you know, somebody somewhere wants to charge more tuition at their academy? And the more gold medalists they have, the more tuition they'll be able to charge, just like in college when they charge more tuition because they have more doctors or presidents or whatever the hell. It's so stupid. It was ruining everything. It's making everybody sad. The girl, I'm sitting there going, well, this girl, if she's decent at all, she may end up harming herself because of this amount of freaking pressure and nonsense. And nobody wants that. That's what the easiest thing would have been to have been, you can't compete, go home. But the problem is they probably didn't have the rule on paper to cite to say this is the rule that says you can't have a positive test within, I don't know, 6 months, whatever. They probably didn't have the rule on paper. They probably deferred to all the federations or home countries, Olympic committees, to have their rules and enforce their rules. So without the rule on paper, they feel like they can't do it. It was their house. They didn't have to let anybody in they didn't want to let in. That's my opinion. And this is why every time you turn on the TV, every time anything happens, you just see corruption and stupidity and cowardice and leaders who can't lead. And it's just, I don't even know how the world's still turning at this point. Everything, we should have just all flung off into space because nothing's going right. Nothing's going right. And it's the people in power. I don't know. It's, to me, it's many, many decades, maybe many centuries of evil that instead of being overcome, it's flourishing. And everybody who stands down and everybody who doesn't say anything is part of the problem. And everybody who allows that person that they don't want at their Thanksgiving dinner is part of the problem. You have to take a stand. You have to do the right thing. Not because it's going to make you look good, not because it's going to make you popular, because it's the right thing.